everybody. Welcome back to the Monday night show of NFL Goal Line. We got a lot to talk about here today. Andrew Luck and Aaron Rodgers duel it out in a thrilling finish. Matt Castle goes down, and the Chiefs fans cheer, and a little interesting about that. What does it mean with Drew Brees breaking Johnny Unitas' record? All this and more tonight on NFL Goal Line.
Welcome inside another presentation of the NFL Goal Line. We have Cameron Sadeghi and also Robert Dieters, along with whoever else wants to be on tap for this Monday night edition of NFL Goal Line with Nick Rice and Phil Nunziata. Hello, guys. Welcome inside the broadcast. Week 5 of the NFL is officially in the books outside of the Monday Nighter. We'll get to that analysis later on in the broadcast. Currently, the Texans lead 14-7. But we have another quarterback that certainly, as a rookie, is shredding things up in the National Football League. We'll go straight into this game between the Colts and the Packers. And outside of some faithful in Indianapolis, not many picking Green Bay to lose this one. And on a last-second drive after trailing 21-3, Andrew Luck in the offense gets things going. And certainly Chuck Pagano in the hospital is certainly proud about his Colts comeback and a 30-27 final. But the key was all about Andrew Luck. And Phil, what to make of this rookie quarterback who, after 31 of 55 passing, certainly he passed the ball a lot today, and a lot of those balls went to Reggie Wayne. What do you make, of this Indianapolis performance, a comeback victory, and certainly one to reckon with? The Colts are a pretty good team, partner.
Well, yeah, it was definitely a feel-good story, as you said, Chuck Pagano being in the hospital diagnosed with leukemia. And they go here and they play the Packers, who, a team that's trying to get on the roll after a few little hiccups during the beginning of the year. And as you said, it's not really a game that many people gave the Colts a chance of winning. And it didn't look like they were going to have any chance, as you said, going down 21-3. And, they eventually got on a roll, and they just kind of hung around. You really didn't think much of it until late in the game. You had Andrew Luck scoring a rushing touchdown, and you saw him run over to the sideline and pat the, "We Are Chuck Strong" poster they have on the side of the building there, which just fired the crowd up. And it was just a situation where you felt something brewing, and they were able to cap off the drive in a shocking upset fashion.
And Chuck Pagano, before the game, challenging all of his Indianapolis squad, by 4:30 today, local time, I want a 2-2 football team. I want a team that goes back to 500, and certainly the interim head coach over there in Indianapolis getting his hometown squad a big-time win. And Andrew Luck, what to make of this quarterback? He hits Reggie Wayne 13 times. But he did spread the ball around, and he did not look like a rookie yesterday, partner. After 55 times throwing the ball, the Colts still do not have a good running game. And Donald Brown with under 4 yards a carry. What to make of this rushing attack that is certainly pedestrian, and that's an understatement. But Andrew Luck, he got things done with over 250 yards passing. What to think of Andrew Luck in this squad in the future, and is the Colts a playoff team, let alone a team that can reckon for a wild card positioning?
Well, you look at his day, and you really can't complain too much about it. He did have 1 or 2 turnovers. That's to be expected because this Packers defense is not a slouch. And you noticed that he passed for well over 350 yards. You say a good portion of that going to Reggie Wayne, who had a monster game, 13 receptions, 212 yards, and a touchdown. That's Brian Hartline-looking stats on the day there. And as he said, he was able to spread the ball around to his other playmakers, Kobe Fleener, Dwayne Allen, who also had a touchdown, T.Y. Hilton, among others. And you definitely saw him come into his own as a quarterback. Here's a game that, maybe the pressure's off him a little bit. They didn't expect him to win this game. They didn't expect him to put the team on his back. And overall, it was, nationally conceded that the Packers were going to win this game. But they had Chuck Pagano on their side, and it's definitely something they wanted to do for him. And it's definitely a great moment as you can definitely see now what the Colts saw in Andrew Luck going into draft day, and that they made the right decision going forward with their quarterback.
I believe for Indianapolis now, it's easy to say now after we're getting into the swing of things in the NFL that the Colts got the better end of the number 1 and number 2 overall. Now it's still early on, and they're still rookies. But one of the things that was mentioned this morning on The Herd, I listened to that I would say weekly on the ESPNU is Colin Cowherd went pretty much in depth on the right off the bat. In life, it's kind of in in some cases, in most cases actually. I mean, as much as this sounds hard to believe, kind of ironic, one thing about life that is is one of those things that people don't really look at, but is important, is limitations. Now, with Robert Griffin, you can run or you can throw the ball, and after a while, that's just not a formula for success in the NFL. Obviously, Cam Newton is having struggles in his second year, and Andrew Luck, he can't run for pretty much a lick. Now, he has more speed than the greats in Peyton Manning and Tom Brady, but his limitations for running the football seemingly give him one choice. That's to throw the football. And Andrew Luck's certainly the best out of the rookie class at throwing the football. I feel like the Redskins, we'll get to them in just a minute, are in some deep trouble with having a two-dimensional quarterback because when it's all said and done, it's never happened before, and I feel like it'll be a long time before it does. A scrambling quarterback is not a formula for winning the Super Bowl. Andrew Luck's certainly the best in the rookie class, and Robert Griffin, I feel, is the number 2 overall pick. He's the guy that isn't certainly the number 1 out of that draft class. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think, it seems that every week you go back and forth on this. Last week, Andrew Luck didn't have that great of a game. Even back to week 1, he had an okay game against the Bears where Robert Griffin, lit up the Saints, and everybody's saying, oh, the Colts made the wrong decision. Look how good RG3 is doing. I think from a week-to-week basis, you're going to see these guys, not that they're doing it on purpose because they have plenty more to worry about than each other's performance, but they seem to one-up each other every other week. So it really just depends what team, who can play better in the system that they're in. It doesn't matter how good you could be, Robert Griffin, let's say, with more weapons around him and stuff. This is the system you're in, and whether you like it or not, you have to make the most of it. Andrew Luck, outside of Reggie Wayne, he has a lot of makeshift guys, a lot of new players in that offense. They're not the best team on paper yet either. So really, it just comes down to who can make the best out of the situation that they were put in after April's draft.
The Indianapolis Colts are certainly in a tough situation, and Andrew Luck is doing the best that he can. And, what's a more better option against the Green Bay Packers than fire 13 times to Reggie Wayne? But he's doing a marvelous job, Andrew Luck is, at taking advantage of his opportunities, and perhaps one of the smartest quarterbacks coming out of that class. I would say the smartest, but obviously we have a lot more football to go. And the same is on Robert Griffin's side. There's a lot of football to go, but right now Andrew Luck seemingly one-upping Robert Griffin certainly this week, and when you can't even finish the game, the situation right now for Robert Griffin, you gotta take a knee, you gotta slide. It was a problem with Mark Sanchez a few years ago. You gotta slide when pressure's on because these guys can flat out run in the National Football League. Washington was in the game seemingly the whole time, but they had to go to the backup. They had to go to Kirk Cousins during the latter portions of the game, and now the question is, will Robert Griffin even be back next week? And after his average performance, seemingly you might want to wait a little later to put your all-pro quarterback back under center.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting to see. You mentioned Andrew Luck. You're really not going to have to worry about him running the ball, tucking and running very often. Robert Griffin, some people have called it Vic syndrome, where you try and do too much and ends up costing you. I think a lot of scrambling quarterbacks do eventually have that. You mentioned even Mark Sanchez, not sliding when needed. Some people even say that about Christian Ponder. They've been saying it since his days in college at Florida State, where he just doesn't slide when he should, and that would explain a lot of his injuries throughout his college career. And it's definitely interesting to see. I'm not sure the extent of the injury. I tried looking up some research on that for the show today, and pretty much even the Washington Redskins don't know at the moment. I think the words were they wouldn't be shocked if he played, but they're preparing as if he's not, which means it'd probably be Kirk Cousins being the guy, another rookie, a 4th-round pick, I believe, out of Michigan State, who had an up-and-down day. He was 5 for 9 for 111 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions late in the game when he's trying to bring the Redskins back. So really, it's going to be interesting. Robert Griffin went through his college career without any major injuries, so it's always interesting to see how a quarterback comes back from his first major injury in the league.
And the interesting stat is that Kirk Cousins, in less than half the time that Robert Griffin has, passes for more yardage and, of course, fires a touchdown. He was trying to rally the troops, threw 2 interceptions. And obviously, this rookie has an uphill battle. But obviously, with Robert Griffin, it's one of those scenarios where you might want to, for Washington, you might want to sit him and, let him rest a week because obviously I don't see very much good out of playing Robert Griffin one more week. The Redskins at 2-3 on the year certainly have an uphill battle. Next week they have to face the Minnesota Vikings. Not exactly an opponent that, you just want to take an easy out on. You would like Robert Griffin to be back, but you want to have Robert Griffin, your all-star quarterback. You paid him a lot of money. You're investing in him for the future, and you don't want him getting back any sooner than he really should. Robert Griffin should be, for the Washington Redskins, an above-average quarterback that they're looking for the next 10 years. You don't want to end his rookie season prematurely just by putting him in 1 week too early. You might want to take it back a little bit, Washington. And Kirk Cousins, even though he didn't have as great of a game as you would like, he did almost beat the Atlanta Falcons in rallying the troops. And Kirk Cousins, certainly as a rookie, in the only start that he has, not all that disappointing. Washington does have a decision, though, at his hands.
Yeah, you see Kirk Cousins come into that game, and, you could think, oh, it's over. Here's a guy coming in cold. But a lot of people don't realize in those situations, it's as big of an issue for the defense on the opposing team. Because here comes this guy, especially looking at Kirk Cousins, in the preparation of this game, did they look at any Kirk Cousins film? No, of course not. It was RG3. They go in not really knowing what this guy's about, what his strengths are, what his weaknesses are, what his tendencies are. It's all different to them. So they're pretty much going in blind, which would explain the over-the-top touchdown given. Because really the only thing you do with a young quarterback who's going in cold like that, you just blitz him a lot and you try and get in his face and you try and rattle him. Obviously, you're susceptible to some plays over the top, but a lot of teams will take that risk in that situation. Apparently, one time it kind of burned the Atlanta Falcons. But when you throw a guy in like that, it can definitely be detrimental for both sides because they don't know what each other is capable of because it's not really a situation that they prepared for.
Kirk Cousins, if he starts next week against the Vikings, certainly it'll be one of those scenarios where how do you game plan against Kirk Cousins? You haven't seen very much film of him, and he hasn't played all year outside of this past week. And right now for the Minnesota Vikings, their defense is dominant, and you know what you're getting out of Robert Griffin. Now I know he's a dynamic, quarterback, and if he gets back in the lineup, even though he might not be 100%, you don't want to write off the Redskins with Robert Griffin just yet because he is a dynamic force. You saw in Week 1 defeating the Saints in their own house. He can throw the football and certainly scrambles for some big-time yardage. And also, not to mention, the Redskins rank in the top 10 in total offense. So let's not take, right off the playoff ship for the Washington Redskins just yet. But obviously, Kirk Cousins, he might start in the league, in the next few years, or might be one of those above-average quarterbacks in the future. But for right now, I feel like you go with the rookie in Kirk Cousins and let Robert Griffin sit a week and put more pain on the Vikings side to try and stop Cousins rather than having them know what they're getting in Robert Griffin.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those situations where, I don't think the Redskins are going to rush him back if he doesn't think he's 100%. And, with a guy like this, he's always going to tell you he's 100%. He could have one leg and tell you that he's 100% because, he wants to be out there. So, really, it's a situation, it's going to be the Redskins' call. And, I'm hoping, not that, being an Eagles fan, I'm not looking for the positives of the Redskins, but, if they should need to make the right call, if they don't think he's 100% to leave him out. And, with Kirk Cousins, obviously they're playing the Vikings, a team who's played very well this year coming up. So, and, pretty decent defense there. You really don't. And again, it kind of plays in their favor a little bit too, because when the Vikings prepare for them, they don't know what quarterback they're preparing for. So they kind of have to look at both guys. Obviously, there's a little bit of film on Kirk Cousins now, but not enough to really game plan, a whole game around. So it'll be interesting to see what the call is on that. And I'm sure as the week goes on, we'll get more injury information about RG3.
I'm sure Mike Shanahan has a decision on his hands, but his Redskins are only a game out of first place in the NFC East. It's going to be a division that will come down right to the wire, and Phil, more on the NFC East and how close